If y'all don't mind, we'll get started for the Board of Managers meeting Wednesday, 4 June. The first thing I wanted to do before we get into the agenda was just confirm with all the entities who we have appointed, just to make sure that I have the right list and just to confirm it. So I know City of Cibolo is here. I know Mr. Huggins is back there. I believe you guys are going to appoint Chris Hubbard. So he's not here yet. He's not appointed yet. But I think the city council is going that direction. City of Converse, we got Stephanie Gonzalez. Is she here? Lavernia, we got Lindsay Wheeler. Okay. Marion is Isaac. We all know Isaac, but he's not here. Okay. County line is Humberto, but I believe Humberto's got an announcement for us.
Make a note that I've been associated with Canyon Regional I was adding up the years. I think it's like 20 something years. So yeah, through my previous, engagement with BareMed, 6.5 years, working at Canyon Regional for 12 years, and now with County Line for 2 years. So it's about 20 something years. I guess it's 20 years. But that being said, I realize, as we become general managers, we're being pulled at all different directions, and I unfortunately have a conflict of interest, not conflict of interest, just a conflict of interest. That's funny. So that, but I have a conflict. With regards to this meeting at 10 o'clock. And so I went ahead and hired a production manager, Derek Turley. I'll let him introduce himself, give you some background. But he's going to be pretty much coming to these meetings on behalf of County Line. I'm still appointed to this board. I do know this board basically acts like a participation. Everybody can participate. So I ask that you afford Derek the same opportunity to just participate on behalf of County Line. And so with that being said, I'll be quiet. And unfortunately, I got to leave. I got to be at San Marcos by 11 o'clock. So again, appreciate the opportunity to be with y'all, and I'll still be on the board. And thank you very much, Chair.
Sure thing. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Been in the water business for about 16 years. I ran the water system for City of Buda and City of Kyle. And thank you for letting me join.
All right, thanks, sir. Okay, Michael is here for Crystal Clear. Brandon is from East Central. He's the appointed one, but we know Mr. Swin. For some reason, I confuse you with Tracy Shields sometimes. I apologize for that, sir. It's just the last name. That's it. It's no resemblance. Okay, so I'm here for Green Valley. Stephen Vonville is here for Martindale. Justin is here for Maxwell. Justin's not here. Is Justin here? No. But Justin's appointed for Maxwell. Spring Hills is Mike Andrews, of course. And then we have GBC Desti Galacia. Is she here? Okay, and that's it. So that was our list. I just wanted to go over our list, and we'll get moving in the meeting. The first agenda item, agenda item 1, open meeting corrections to the meeting notes. I didn't see any. Does anyone have any concerns about the minutes from the last meeting? Okay, I'll take that as everyone's fine with it. And then the first thing that I wanted to show you guys, which was on a handout on the table, is Brandon Rohan, our new president, right, gave us a charge for the Board of Managers. And he did this for all the committees. And as you know, the Board of Managers is actually established in the bylaws of CRWA as a standing committee. And I'm paraphrasing. I don't know what it says exactly, but that's kind of what it says. But the charge kind of lays out what our duties and responsibilities are for the Board of Managers. And essentially, you can read through it at your leisure, but I wanted to highlight this, that we have this guidance. On the back page, it has some key functions and activities, and I think this goes, straight toward what Humberto, just alluded to at the beginning of the meeting. We have some things that we need to do to help, CRWA run a little better as a Board of Managers, and reviewing operations, capital project coordination, regulatory, water compliance, demand forecasting, allocation, emergency preparedness, budget input, performance matrices, sharing best practices amongst our entities, and then just any other function that the board tells us to take a look at, right? So I just wanted to see that y'all saw this, and we'll talk about it at the end. There's an idea out that Brandon Rohan had to rotate our location of our meetings amongst the entities. We can discuss later if y'all want to do that, and we'll decide what we're going to do. at the end of the meeting. But I just want to highlight that to you guys. You have any comments about the charge to the Board of Managers? Anybody, any questions about it? I think it's good. I appreciate Brandon doing that. It gives us some guidance and direction. So thank him for that. Okay. If you guys don't mind, agenda item 7 alpha, we have GBRA Habitat Conservation Plan. If you guys don't mind, I would like to ask them to present first. Just background, this was discussed at the last Board of Trustees meeting, but the Board of Managers didn't have a chance to look at it. And so we're hoping to do that today, and I think Carrie's got that laid on, so I'll pass it over to Carrie.
Yeah. Sorry, we actually have Daniel. Are you presenting, Daniel? Okay, from GBRA here. And we can, if you can pull up those slides, Hannah.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and managers. It's a pleasure to present to you. I'm going to be explaining what the Guadalupe River Habitat Conservation Plan is and part of why it's before you on the agenda today as a potential opportunity for Canyon Regional to participate in. First and foremost, as the name suggests, the Habitat Conservation Plan is a plan to protect endangered species across the Guadalupe River Basin. And it's something that GBRA actually started to protect its own operations against any liability under the Federal Endangered Species Act. But we're designing this plan in a way that provides opportunities for other entities throughout the basin that have similar operational activities to also get protection from regulatory liability. So I'll explain a little bit more as we go along what that means. And I should introduce myself. I'm Daniel Large. I'm the HCP director at GBRA for this project. And I'm joined here by Mr. Nathan Pence, who's executive manager of environmental science. So if we could advance to the next slide, unless I have a clicker. Okay, perfect. So nuts and bolts. What is a habitat conservation plan? There's a lot of technical terms that we throw around. So first and foremost, the HCP, as we abbreviate it, is a strategy to get a permit. A specific permit and they don't take permit, and it's a federal permit that allows entities to continue their operations that impact endangered species or harm them, cause reductions to their habitat, stress them out, for example. So specific activity that I think is the focus for today is removal of water from the system. That's obviously an activity that GBRA has a lot as a made water supplier with extensive water rights throughout the basin. And so that activity of removing water from the system has the potential to impact endangered species, and therefore we're seeking this incidental take permit to provide us protection from any federal liability under the Endangered Species Act. However, in order to get this permit, you need to develop a habitat conservation plan. So specific, the habitat conservation plan, the plan has to identify the impacts that the entity is going to cause to endangered species and estimate the scope or the amount of those impacts using scientific methods. The HCP also has to detail conservation measures that will be that amount of impacts to endangered species, also based on science. And specific standard is best available science. So the feds don't require applicants to go out and do new science to make their case to get a permit. They are only required to use what's already out there published. And that's an important, I guess, guardrail in the development of this plan. But it's all about getting that permit to provide protection. If we could scroll down. So GBRA went through an extensive process to determine what all endangered species could pose a risk from our operational activities in the basin. And it was not only GBRA's activities, but also entities from the headwaters to the mouth of the Guadalupe River down on the coast. So out of that process, we identified these 6 species as focal species for the plan that will be covered and get protections for. So the first 3 on the top are native freshwater mussels. The Guadalupe orb and the Guadalupe fat mucket are distributed in the upper basin. In the lower basin, where it would pertain to Canyon Regional's operations, only the Guadalupe orb and the false spike are relevant. So those would be two species that CRWA would be getting regulatory protection for if participating. The Guadalupe darter, just to keep with the fully aquatic species on the bottom right, is a small fish. That fish also lives in the lower basin in and around Canyon Regional's operations. And so that would be another species. In the specific case of that fish, that is one that is not currently federally protected. It is a state threatened species, but we do anticipate that given its continued decline, it can be eventually a candidate for federal endangered species protections. And so given that its habitat and habits overlap almost completely with the mussels, we felt that it was kind of a 2-for-1 deal to go ahead and include that in the plan and already get protection for that in a proactive way. The last two species are coastal birds that live down around the mouth of the Guadalupe River out on in Calhoun and Refugio counties on the coast. And both of these are also impacted some by activities of removing water from the river, because that affects the flows in the fresh water down on the mouth of the river on the coast. And so these would also be species that Canyon Regional would be getting regulatory protections from. Go ahead and slide down. So just to explain how this works, how Canyon Regional would get permit protection under this plan with GBRA as the primary applicant. This is actually a programmatic approach that is already well established in the regulations for habitat conservation plans. And so the permitting authority for this is the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. It's the federal agency that's responsible for the Endangered Species Act and regulatory compliance. And the service would issue that incidental take permit to GBRA as the applicant. And then regs enable GBRA to extend that same permit coverage to other entities through a legal agreement called a certificate of inclusion in the plan. So as this diagram is showing, we can extend that coverage to Canyon Regional through that agreement, and we can extend it to other entities as well. Currently, we have about 13 other entities throughout the basin, water utilities, local governments, heavy industry down on the coast, small recreational businesses that are also interested in participating. Some of them have already executed MOAs. Others are in the final stages of that review process. I feel like I might be forgetting something, but there's also time for questions at the end, and maybe it'll come back to me. So if we could continue. I guess what I was going to say also, and that's fine, is that we've also been working with staff to make sure that the plan that we're developing is something that makes sense for Canyon Regional and would work with your activities. So we've been working closely with staff for the past couple of years to get detailed technical information about your activities and to model your activities and their potential impacts on endangered species. We've been doing this with the help of $2 million in federal grant funding. We received 2 grant awards to support the development of this plan. So all of this evaluation and coordination and facilitation has been at no cost to Canyon Regional. And we're doing this as kind of just out of a regional leadership approach to stewarding the resources of the basin and providing this opportunity to other entities. That explains that. And if we could continue on, I think I've already mentioned, but the specific activities for Canyon Regional that would be covered under the plan would be your water diversions from Canyon and the San Marcos River, and also the water intake maintenance and operation. So the actual suction of the intakes which you use to pump out water out of the system has the potential to impact endangered species by them getting caught up in the currents or sucked against the filter. That does seem, there's already a lot of avoidance and best management practices in place, screens, for example, to avoid impacts, but this is an opportunity to go ahead and get full regulatory protection against potential liability from those activities. So if we could scroll down again. Really quickly, the models we've developed to estimate impacts are very complex. We could spend a whole day going into the ins and outs of it, But suffice it to say, we're using what's called the water availability model to model impacts to flows in the river. That's the same model that TCEQ uses to issue water permits. And we are using Qualtex to estimate impacts to water quality. We, as GBRA, we own and operate wastewater treatment plants that discharge into the river. We did not, based on our evaluation, we did not find any relevant discharges to cover for Canyon Regional, but we use Qualtex for those other entities. And based on those models, we then develop estimate of take of those activities, to use the technical legal term, and that's results in that final take assessment. So the number of species affected by operations. We could slide down. Running to the end here, the specific conservation measures we've talked about with staff to offset the amount of impacts would involve dedicating a portion of Canyon Regional's Canyon and San Marcos diversion rights to be used for stream flow for species conservation. So this would be water off your permits that would just stay in the river. It wouldn't be pumped out and returned back. It would just stay in the river. The other measure would be to continue to implement your drought contingency plan and to develop and implement an education program about these endangered species. Rough idea of the cost of implementing this project, just the whole shebang across the basin, is $1 million. And this implementation cost will consist of staffing, education and outreach, all of the paperwork that's required to run this program, and the monitoring and annual reporting that's required. That $1 million is going to be split up amongst the participants, with GBRA taking the lion's share. The way that we split up this cost is based on the amount of impact you have and also the scale of your operations. So at this time, we're estimating the cost to Canyon Regional would be about $45,000 per year. This is a 50-year permit that we're seeking, so that would be an annual cost. But I want to stress that both these conservation measures and these costs are really estimated at this time. The process of developing this plan is one that is kind of a negotiation with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and we are not going to be submitting the complete plan to the service until spring of next year. We are seeking to execute MOAs with entities that are knowing all of these details, can see themselves getting to the finish line with us based on this information. Obviously, there's a lot still to be determined, and the MOA that's before you has termination provisions and off-ramps. It's a non-binding agreement, but we really need certainty to be able to continue this process and to finish out the plan and write up this complete draft before we spend all the time and effort and money to do that. If you could continue on down. So I already got into this, but the memorandum of agreement is this agreement to formalize your commitment to participating. This is going to be, of course, before this incidental take permit gets issued, and it's kind of this interim, indication of your commitment to participating. The certificate of inclusion I mentioned earlier in that diagram, but this is the legal agreement that will then need to be executed between GBRA and the second party that would be recognized by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for take authorization or that permit coverage. That certificate of inclusion would be negotiated with you and executed after the permit would be issued. And we're anticipating that would take place around mid-2027, but that's outside of our control since that's a federally issued permit. If you could slide on to the next one, I think we have reached the end, but I'd be happy to answer any questions, and thank you.
I noted you indicated the San Marcos intake that Canyon Regional Water Authority operates.
Yes, sir.
In the upper segment of the San Marcos River. I believe it's in the upper segment. I didn't see any mention of the species that might be impacted on that stream.
The Guadalupe darter occurs in the San Marcos. It has been documented in around there, so there would be protection provided for that species, and also for the mussels. So the San Marcos is actually a stronghold for the Guadalupe orb. Its populations are the healthiest in the whole river basin in the upper San Marcos. And that would be the only species. The fall spike occurs further down.
So the rice and the darter,
So the rice is covered by the Edwards HCP, and that is way further up in the system above that intake. Are you referring to the fountain darter? Yeah. The fountain darter has only recently been documented as far down as in and around that intake. However, the service, according to their current published assessments, views that as something needing further study, and therefore we are not considering that for protection at this time.
thank you.
Thank you.
I've got a couple of questions. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I heard you mention the dollar amount you're looking for. What is the amount of water you want diverted?
Good question. That is a specific issue that's requiring additional modeling. So we are working to determine what exact amounts would be needed to meet that fully offset. And I don't think we have a specific amount yet.
Ballpark?
50 acre feet, 100 acre feet. So not a whole bunch. I don't know how much water it is totality, but it's not tons of water. Y'all do not have a big impact like some of the others do, like GBRA and some of the larger. So I'm looking for a smaller amount of water. Some of the other entities are giving a couple thousand acre feet, but in perspective.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was sounding kind of non-committal there because we're actively running the conservation measures run that will show how close we get to our target based on the specific commitment.
I would tell you that I would not want us to sign an MOA until we know that acre foot amount, because that's probably more, at least from my perspective, than dividing 40,000 by 11. Getting the acre foot, because right now, as we all know, you're talking about taking my gold. So
Well, that's an estimate that we've given, and we're fairly confident with that estimate, but we will not be able to tell you how much water for sure that any regional needs to give until we go through that negotiation process with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And the MOA is essentially signaling that you want to be a part of that negotiation process with Fish and Wildlife. Does not have enough water in there for that reason. But we're in the ballpark of what we're talking about. We've got to finalize that with Fish, and hopefully y'all would like to be a part of those negotiations with us to go all the way through that process. But we can't give a firm number of money or of water until we finalize that. My hope would be we can bring that down through our negotiations. So, but can't promise that. That's what we'll go into the process trying to accomplish.
During times of curtailment, would that qualify for the water that's not pulled out? Or would you be asking us to not pull an additional amount?
I think what we're talking about is the 50 acre feet or so off of a permit plus your DCP.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
I'm glad you asked that question about the water, but I would disagree with you. And I think I agree with Nathan. We need to sign this MOU because the other avenue is that we would have to pay to initiate the process. And I think GBRA got $2 million in grants and they got the ball rolling. So it's an MOU. It doesn't really commit us. It just says we want to participate. And this is nothing different than what we did with the Edwards. You know, some of us were involved in Edwards HCP, which took years. But, you know, I do have some questions. And one of them was about the water. And I do agree that it's going to be the restrictions along with whatever is going to be taken out of the river. My concern is that you had indicated that the mussels are primarily located in San Marcos location. So some of us have San Marcos water rights and some have canyon water rights. So I guess will there be a pro rata share or how is this going to be done? Whether maybe Hayes Caldwell entities will basically take a bigger bite of this, decrease in water. Maybe you don't know. Just a thought to think about. Will we be losing more water in Hayes Caldwell as opposed to Lake Dunlap? Don't know. The other question I wanted to ask is I have another couple of questions, but the next one is, with regards to endemic species. I know these are endemic. I know the mussel is endemic. The darter, they're found there. These migratory birds. I know, Nathan, when you and I spoke when this was getting started, you talked about reaching out to other utilities, other states that may be potentially part of this process because migratory birds come from the north. Is this calculation based on some percent of the lifespan of a migratory bird, or is it like the whole lifespan of a migratory bird? We're assuming 100% of it gets killed within the process. How does that going to work?
Sure. So see if I can answer that, take that in bite chunks there. But the first thing I want to make sure and say is Canyon Regional would only be mitigating for Canyon Regional's impacts. So the way that we have our modeling set up, we have deltas between what the flow in the river would be without Canyon Regional's activities and then with Canyon Regional's. So that delta is all that you're being asked to mitigate for. So anything that wished to happen at Wood Buffalo in Canada or in the migratory pathway through central United States does not impact what you're being asked to mitigate for. So if there's impacts occurring on those, it's independent of our plan. But with that said, Umberto, we have been in contact with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and there's an international whooping crane team that Canada and the states participate in, and they are taking steps on their own. And then some of the states in the Central Flyway, Kansas, Nebraska, and a couple in that area are actually working on some of their own plans because of wind turbines and generation there. So they're kind of doing their own thing independent of us, but we are talking with them. I'll just end again with wanting to make sure we are not being asked to, and nor would we ever mitigate for any of their activities or things happening. It's independent in the way we set up our methodologies to make sure we can actually tell you CRWA's impact from GBRA's impact from other utilities' impact. That's why we as GBRA with greater impacts would be giving more mitigation, more water, and y'all would be giving less, because we can actually separate those two things. And if y'all ever wanted to, we could sit down for a couple hours and go through that. And whether it's the whole group or just a couple that might be interested, would definitely want to be transparent with that. We can show that on purpose.
Last question I want to ask. If we were to find extra water in the river, I think we came across the Cummings permit at the last Board of Trustees meeting. That was about 40 acres or something like that. Would that fall under this protection, or will we have more decreased amounts of volume? I guess we would have more because we're taking more water out. So, it's like a no-win. So why? I just don't know how this is going to work with regards to, if we're asking to be restrictive and we're finding more water. Will that be covered under this secondary take, or will this be detriment to us? Basically, we're subtracting. Do you know what I'm saying?
I would start just by saying buying additional water rights, simply put, means additional impacts. And those impacts under the federal regulations put you at risk. So you would want to seek protection for those additional impacts. It wouldn't be the entire water right, for example. So that would be part one. I bet Nathan has a part two.
Yeah, simple answer to that would be an amendment. The only thing that's covered for CRWA right now is the knowns that you hold right now. So if you pick up another permit, you would absolutely want to add that. And that's what Dana's talking about. You want to cover it. Then that would take an amendment to get that put in, and could require additional mitigation if you add something else to it. But keep that in perspective. If you add another 40 acre feet to your portfolio, you're not going to be asked to give up 40 acre feet. There's a percentage there. So maybe that's one more acre foot that goes with it, if anything at all, when you're talking about that small amount. I thought where I thought you were going, Umberto, was could that be something we picked up and used as the mitigation for the process? And the answer was going to be yes. If you find that other pots of water, so you don't have to take off a current permit, water is water to the species wherever it comes from. We could model that and include it. So just keep those options open for you. But if you'd want to add an amendment if you pick up something else.
I was thinking more stingy. I don't want to do water.
That's all.
All right, Gary, you had a couple more questions.
Yeah, so, and I think this was touched on at the Board of Trustees meeting last month, but just to make sure I'm understanding correctly, we don't have to do a plan, either join yours or on our own. But if we don't, there's some serious consequences if we have an incidental take, correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct. GBRA started this project out of our own experience with the whooping crane back several years ago. That cost us $7 million in total out of the legal fees. And, there's also intangibles associated with that as well. So we view this as being proactive about it, avoiding getting into that situation and providing us with certainty going into the future to clear the way for our, long-term planning and water supply to our customers.
The only thing I mentioned too is there's cost share in that. So GBRA, we're not asking you to pay for anything that we're doing, but we were able to get $2 million in grants to help the whole area plan under this process. And we're not asking for any funding through the planning process because we were able to cover it with our own funds and with grants. So working together like that is definitely cheaper for CRWA. If y'all tried to do one on your own, you'd be doing the exact same process we're doing right now. You're paying for it all on your own too.
Okay. And so this plan would be in effect for how many years?
50 years.
50 years. Okay.
Yes,
That's
sir.
what we're asking.
So for
Federal government can throw you curveballs, but that's our intent.
so for nearly, if not all of us, that means in perpetuity.
Beyond a lifetime.
Yeah.
Well, for me and Mike Andrews, we'll be retired by then, right, Mike?
Maybe.
For sure. So,
Based off my wife's spending patterns, I don't think so.
so one last question for me. So like, in terms of moving this thing forward, okay, so the memorandum of agreement that you guys want, right? That thing, let's just say our board of trustees approves it, right? When you figure out the costing and the acre feet of water that has to be diverted, is there an off ramp, right? I mean, like if all of a sudden you come up with it's $100,000, it's more than that. Can you off ramp it, right? So it's not binding, is what I understand.
Yes, sir. There's already a termination provision in there that states that either entity can, terminate the agreement with, I think, 90 days notice, probably for no reason. And so it's very flexible and non-binding in that way.
Yeah.
It's that certificate of inclusion when we actually get the incidental take permit that y'all will be asked to sign.
Yeah.
That's where the real need that comes from. So if you're nervous about I'm sorry, I don't know everyone's names, but if you're nervous about giving up some water or not knowing what that amount is, the MOA does not give up any water. It just signals that is a potential mitigation that can be considered. It's that certificate of inclusion that you sign after we get the permit that actually convinces you to give something up. So the MOA just signals you want to go through the process with this. It's that COI when we get to that point about a year. Where the rubber really meets the road, and you'll know those exact numbers, and when you sign that document, then you are committed.
Okay.
Kerry, has staff been given this MOA to review?
Yeah, we have been given that. So I'll forward it out and circulate it.
That'd be great.
Some of you were at the last Board of Trustees meeting and we asked Daniel to come and present then. I did it in opposite order, should have come to the Board of Managers first. And so I was directed to come to the Board of Managers and ask for a recommendation. And staff does recommend that we join this plan. So that's what I'm requesting from the board today as a recommendation for the Board of Trustees.
Okay. So this is the second bite of the apple, I guess, that I've heard about. And so, we don't necessarily vote, right? But do we have consensus that we advance it to the Board of Trustees and simply recommend that we, approve the MOA, and then with the understanding that the MOA has off ramps? Do we have anybody gutturally opposed to making that recommendation? Okay. All right. We got consensus. All right.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Humberto, go ahead.
I've got one more question.
Oh,
This,
sorry.
hopefully y'all have the right answer, because I've asked Brian Perkins this. With regards to Water Secure is taking into account this particular process, correct? Or this process is taking care of the Water Secure project y'all have got?
It is. So Water Secure is going to be built on permits that GBRA has.
Already
Those
owns. Yeah.
permits process. So when Water Secure comes online, it's already baked in. Those permits are protected regulatorily, and that water, there won't be an increased cost to use that water above what you're already talking to Brian about.
Okay, just wanted, because he was.
That's a
gonna get
good
back-
question. Those are rights already owned by GBRA.
We are including on this, and that's one of the emphasis for doing this, because we don't want that project to get challenged.
Okay. Awesome.
Thank
Okay.
you.
I think we beat that to death.
All right,
Thank
thank
you
you.
very much, guys. We spent a fair amount of time doing that, so we'll press on through the agenda. I would ask the staff, we have your reports. Could you just highlight them to us, and we can ask questions? That way we can pick up our pace a little bit. Thank you, GBRA, for showing up. So let's go to agenda item number 2, water precipitation drought update. Adam.
Yeah, just real briefly, all that rain that we got this last month really did not impact Canyon Lake all that much. It came up a little bit, but then it's dropping back down again. Really nothing much to report on the drought and precipitation report.
Yeah. I would have been watching it, right? So they went up to like 877.2 and then it went back down to 1.9, right? Of Canyon. So they're still in stage 4. 6.7% is still in effect in terms of curtailment per member or entity, right?
Yeah.
So no change there.
No change there. Still
Okay.
in stage 4.
Mike, do you have a question?
Yeah, and toward Adam, maybe just educate me. My memory is that there's a required outflow from Canyon Lake that GBRA has to do to meet certain contractual requirements for downstream areas. And in my head, it was something like 65 acre feet per second, or 65 feet.
CFS, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
CFS, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what I don't understand is when we have a big rain and there's a big inflow, why do they up it to 90 to 100 outflow at that point? Why don't they keep it at 65?
Yeah, they have actually other commitments other than water utilities downstream. Example is that they have several different power turbines. And so what they do is they take advantage of the situation where they can actually flow more water out to produce power at these different turbines.
Okay.
And so what you'll see if you monitor,
They reduced 15%?
I am not for sure. I don't know the answer to that.
I mean, yeah, if we have to reduce, they should have to reduce.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, they're taking more, not less. And on their website, it does say like 64 point something CFS, is
Mhm.
what they require.
Yeah.
But then as soon as it rains, they run 90.
It's like 90, 100.
I would have loved to ask the guys that just walked out the door.
They
Well,
wouldn't know. I bet you they wouldn't know.
No,
I mean, it helps them make, this is paranoia Mike talking. This makes their water secure plan much more desirable because, gee, there's just not enough water,
Yeah.
and I'm just wondering, is it a self-fulfilling prophecy for them?
it's
Yeah.
30 CFS, which isn't much, but it's still
Yeah.
more than none.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you keep an eye on that, you'll notice that throughout the month, they'll go between 50, 55 and 65 CSF
Yep.
coming out.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, you'll see it going up and down. And the whole reason why it's going up and down is to try to generate power at those plants.
Thanks, Adam.
I'd probably ask them.
Yeah.
Yeah, just ask them.
Yeah.
Yeah, just ask GBRA and see what they say. Tell us what they say. Hey, item number 2, Delta, when it says drought mitigation, short-term water leases, I think last time we talked, we were talking about, Canyon Regional doing the lease of some raw water from those of us that have it. Do you have an update on that?
I have no update on that. I just haven't been able to get with our legal on that, but I
Okay.
do still want to pursue it.
Okay. And we're still, Mike, we still considering, yeah.
Well, and Mike brought up a good point. We're talking about that 920 acre feet, but
Yeah.
we need to look at that and see what makes the best sense on that.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. Any other things on drought participation, precipitation? If not, we'll go to item 3, treated water production. Adam, anything on your reports to highlight?
Yeah, just one small change is that we have some entities that have their own drought plan with GBRA, and so I went ahead and took those numbers out of the report because they have their own thing that's going on.
Which report are you looking at?
That would be
The DCP report?
the DCP report. That's
Okay.
correct.
And what you're referring to is like the 1,000 acre feet that I own raw from GBRA
Right.
that I'm already curtailing with GBRA?
That's correct.
Okay. That makes sense. Okay. My one question I had on your reports is for your usage report, your production report. You said this before. I just want to ask you again. So these numbers are through the end of May. So this report's to the end of May.
That's correct.
And this is based off SCADA and such. It's not based
Yeah.
off meters for billing, right? The
That's
two don't
correct.
match.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so just for those of you that do see your billing sheets and then also you see this report in the managers meeting, the billing sheets actually have 2 different kinds of readings on them. We do a manual reading and we actually bill off of the manual reading.
Okay.
That's where the operator actually goes out there, looks at the meter and writes the number down. But then we also have for our dailies, we record the skater reads to see what's happening at each meter daily. And so there's any daily overages, that's what we calculated off of.
Okay. Any questions for Adam on the reports? Appreciate it, Adam. Item 4, general construction. Let me see, this is actually Carrie for 4A.
So on the IH10 projects, I think they're finally moving forward with that. They did get their materials to install the carrier pipe in the casing. I think you're all aware that one is considerably late, as well as the FM 1518 transmission line project. We did get an update from the contractor yesterday on that. They have been diligently watering, and the rain helped. The vegetation is starting to come in thicker. They believe that they're there. They're not there yet. They've still got a ways to go, but it is getting better. We're estimating maybe within the next 2 weeks to 30 days, they might be there to where we can close that out and finish that project. The IH10 conflict at Channel D, they're still working through that with TxDOT, and then also we have design plans. They did make some changes so that they could go ahead and move forward with construction. But one of the things they were asking us to do was just relocate a small segment of that pipeline. But doing it the way they were suggesting would have made it extremely difficult to do any kind of maintenance or repair in the future, and would have required lane closures to do any repairs in the future. So we requested that we go back to the original alignment, and they agreed. So that's moving forward. I hope to be in construction within the next few weeks on that. Hayes Caldwell pipeline. Apologies, I did not get an update on the easement statuses on the table, but we are moving forward with easement acquisitions. We have acquired another one, so we have 5 left. Is that correct, Bobby? Yeah. So we're working through it. The initial offer letters have gone out, and we're geared up to before too long. I think it's in the next couple of weeks to send final offer letters to some of these outstanding landowners. So we're still on schedule with that. Still on schedule. The design is finished. It's just a matter of acquiring the easements. We're required by the amendment to the William Agreement to be in construction by mid-December. We'll feel like we'll be well ahead of that. So everything going well.
If I got any questions for that, and I guess I should have said too, we kept these things on the agenda for this board of managers meeting, but the intent is that we're not going to redo the work of the construction committee. It's just like if we have any updates or questions that we need to hear about, fine. We're going to let the construction committee do their job. So that's what we're trying to get to, is just hit highlights. We can keep going to item number 5.
Can I ask just a
Yes, sir.
quick sharing of information question?
Yes, sir.
Are you finding that it's getting harder to get people to agree to easements?
Oh, sir.
Because I am.
We are. Well, we are too. I've been doing a lot of easements myself, right? I mean, and we're finding that, and I know Regina said you guys have had problems too. I just think it's the nature of the beast. I think what I found is we had developers out there and they tried to negotiate easements sometimes on my behalf, right? When we didn't ask them to do that, right? And we have to police that up. That's a tendency to push price up, right? Because they're flashing dollar bills at landowners sometimes, and it's not good. So what I do on that is we don't allow the developers to do that. We negotiate our own easements on our own name. But,
Yep. That's how we play it. But Keith calls it Google lawyers.
yeah.
People that think that, they can go to Google and suddenly
Yeah.
they can negotiate back to us.
Landowners get dollar signs in their eyes when the public agency comes for an easement. I mean, that's been that way since the dawn of creation. But like you said, in this day of information at your fingertips, more people realize, hey, yeah.
I mean, I can say, to me, it seems like it's gotten a lot worse in the last 7 or 8 months than the first 10 months I was on the job.
Yeah.
Okay.
More folks are
We're not in a vacuum.
condemnation.
That's misery loves company. Thank you.
Yeah.
More people are hiring condemnation attorneys now too. private landowners that do that. So.
Crazy. Anyway, item number 5, treatment plant.
I have no update for you on the interconnect line, other than we're continuing to coordinate a better alignment coming into the tank at Lake Dunlap. I will, Bobby, I'll let you take over on the strainers.
Yeah, on the strainer project, spoke with Keely this morning. They'll be delivering contracts today for that project. And I'm gonna go ahead and jump to the ozone as well. They'll be delivering that contract today.
So the ozone's for Hayes Caldwell?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I'm just keeping the
Same contract.
same contractor there. To go ahead and touch on the ozone project, we talked a little bit about tariffs. They are not 100% sure how that's going to impact any cost. They will let us know hopefully ahead of time should they have to add a cost to particular material. But also too, they are hoping to have the materials delivered at a time when tariffs talk goes away, so it may not impact. But going forward, they are not 100% sure how that will affect any cost. Since I'm talking, I'm just going to jump around if that's okay. The Wells Ranch generator project, Wayfield has not returned the contracts. They're illegal on their review side. So I've asked them to hopefully, speed that process up so we can get moving on that.
So this is the contract the trustees voted to award?
Yes, sir.
For the Hayes Caldwell,
Yes, sir.
we're just waiting for them to get it done.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It's in their court, and then their lawyers are checking it out.
And this one includes like backup gens for like Wagner and several other places, right? It's not just Wells Ranch.
Yeah. There's multiple locations.
That's right.
This is the one that we're having to redo because all the wiring and switches and whatnot were undersized.
I don't want to belabor anything, but the
Yeah.
ground storage tank rehab, which tank is that?
It's
I'm assuming that's your
both
storage tank.
both tanks. But that's to put in aeration and ventilation to
Is that the
help.
one that's leaking like it said back there?
Could be.
Sir, I don't know what you're talking about. But that anything like that will also be addressed in the rehabilitation. But that's in an effort to minimize the THMs coming out of the facility
Right.
as much as possible.
Okay. Got any questions about water treatment plants? Wells Ranch is next.
I'll go ahead and touch on the upgrade project. I was out there the other day. They do have foundations in place with duct run through. The weather's impacted their ability to get out there just because of wet roads and, soft materials. They are hoping to get out there next week to move generator 2 to well number 2 to 14. And they're pending, the electricians are pending cabinet delivery time.
Okay. Is maybe off topic. How's the well 1 doing? The one that we had the emergency order on.
As of the end of last week, we still hadn't heard a final determination from Weisinger on whether or not they thought it could be repaired. Last we heard from their field guys, they don't think it's repairable. If that's the case, we're going to have to drill a new well to replace it. But we will push them. David is on vacation this week, so we'll get an update on Monday whenever he's back in the office.
Okay. Anything else on Wells Ranch?
Well, for items B and C, Marisa Vergara with STV is here just to give us a quick update. I think you have a couple of slides.
Boom, there it is.
Okay, if you can scroll just a little bit down, that'd be okay. Okay, I'm just, hi, I'm Marisa Vergara, STV. Last time I was here, I reported to you on the Wells Ranch Phase 3 expansion study that was submitted and finalized with the team's review. So thank you for all your comments. Just want to give a report out on kind of next steps as to where we're at. Specifically, the next major steps are going to be refining of the hydraulics along the transmission main. That's going to take participation from all the stakeholders as it relates to confirmation of take points and confirmation of quantities related to phase 3. And that will help us refine the hydraulics of the pipeline and sizing. I'm going to move on in just a minute, but not yet, as it relates to the Bloomberg track. And if you recall from our last conversation, that's going to be coupled together potentially and incorporated into the hydraulic analysis of this transmission main. So just want to let you know that's on the horizon as to the next steps of technical studies. In addition, we're continuing to work with staff as it relates to making sure that the regional plan numbers are correct on phase 3 so that applications related to future funding can be moved forward for the expansion. And there's other consultants that are involved as well that will be looking at applications later this year. So we're gearing up and getting ready for that programmatically. Also, clearly the permitting is very important. Our partners here at GBRA, we're kind of monitoring their status with the district as it relates to their permits, and then we'll be moving forward with our modeling exercises and submission of permits for this expansion. We're just a little bit on pause as we continue to monitor. And then moving forward into the fall, we'll be looking at programmatic planning. So what does that look like as it relates to procurement strategies, timing, schedules, budgets, and implementation of receipt of funding, all of that. But the most important thing, but while we're waiting for a lot of these things to happen, is this upcoming stakeholder coordination for take points. So we'll be wanting you to really be thinking about, what is the amounts you want to participate in, as far as and then where is the growth needs for your systems along the corridor of the existing Wells Ranch transmission, but also need to have a conversation about the northern line that was included in the study and whether or not that's going to be partnered into this program as a whole. So just want to get everyone be thinking about that. We'll be coming to you guys in the coming months. Okay. Next slide, I want to give an update on our status moving forward on the expanded Brackish-Carrizo-Wilcox study. That's more of a formal term. I put in parentheses Bloomberg because that's a kind of a nomenclature that we've been talking about internally as an organization. And so what the next steps are related to that, and scope has been presented, and we're waiting to move forward, hopefully this month in June, will be the test wells. And if you remember from our conversation, we're recommending 3 test wells to be drilled on this particular property. And that would include the quantity productions that would be needed for treatment at the facility in the near area. Always being mindful of that pink line, which is where our Wells Ranch transmission main corridor is, and we would look to be integrating with that for delivery to our customers. The study and report will include both the aquifer testing as well as considerations for treatment and siting for a treatment facility. We've included in the language on that study for the treatment facility the layout to accommodate maybe other future supplies that would be in that area as well. So that would be included in the study. And that would include, similar to the phase 3 report, it would include conceptual designs and conceptual costings for budgetary purposes and potential availability for financing. A little bit more detail on the schedule. Next slide. We are looking to kick off in June-ish, hopefully, and we'll be quickly preparing construction documents for the test wells for advertisement and bidding this fall. That's what our anticipated schedule is, in hopes to having quality and quantity information by Q1 of 26. So that kind of gives you a guidance as to where we are on schedule. We'll be, of course, as I mentioned before, we'll be merging and considering what's going on with the phase 3 expansion. That'll be moving in parallel. And I do want to note that the permitting process for these particular test wells is not going to be as extensive as it would be for full production wells. And so we don't anticipate major schedule implications on where we're currently looking. So that's where we are. I want to answer any of your questions that you might have or give us guidance or direction as to what else needs to be included.
I've got a couple of questions.
Mhm.
One, given bills that are on the governor's desk and then funding for brackish, are we going to go after, try to get some of those funds to offset these costs?
Yes, sir.
Good.
Certainly.
Good answer.
Yeah.
Second,
Excellent answer. Yeah.
I assume the GCD, the G is for Guadalupe.
This is Guadalupe, yes, sir.
Okay, I didn't know if we were
Not
thinking about the Gonzales of
Yeah.
the G. And do we have any updates in terms of where those folks are in their head, so to speak?
Just that they're still non-decisive on the pending application with GBRA. Given that, and given the probably certainty that there will be others who are going to want to get permits in the future in that county, we feel like it's in our best interest to put in our application as soon as possible and get it in queue.
Well, maybe if they're not letting GBRA export water, they could use that water as this diversion for the snail darter.
I do want to note on Guadalupe for permitting with the district that we are we're awaiting the finalization of their model with their hydrogeologist. That's kind of holding us up a little bit, which, could have impacts on our well pump expansion that's currently under construction. So we're monitoring that schedule and we're expecting to have that model ready by their hydrogeologist by July. And then we would be submitting shortly thereafter in hopes to go into the September board for approval.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Anybody have any questions? I think the technical aspect is, I don't have any questions though. I mean, it's just like drilling wells and do the engineering. My questions revolve about how we pay for it, right? In the scheme of things. Now I know the ones that we have a participation agreement circulating for Wells Ranch 3. You can have a seat now.
Okay, good. Sorry,
I don't
I'm
wanna make
like,
you
I
stand up
don't
there.
think so.
I'm kind of moving off on a different direction, but we have a participation agreement out there, for Wells Ranch 3, that Kerry sent out to the folks that are participating. And in that agreement, it doesn't really talk about, the incorporation of the Bloomberg, thing, but I mean, that's a smart thing to do. But I'm just concerned about how we figure out how we bear these costs, right? Because I think, just speaking on my behalf, I think that we've got a situation where we have some sunk costs in some projects that we really haven't, we don't have a contract mechanism that really accounts for that. And I'm speaking really in terms of leases, that we went out and acquired more leases, which was the right thing to do, but we just didn't have a contract mechanism for it. Mm-hmm. So I would like to avoid, I'm interested in y'all's thoughts. How do we avoid that, in the future when we embark upon a project, we begin with the financing plan at the same time, so we're not stuck after the fact.
I think the first thing is we don't kid ourselves that it's going to happen quickly, and so we don't need to do it right now.
Yeah.
But we intend to have a separate participation agreement for the Bloomberg project.
I recommend it.
That largely mirrors the Wells Ranch 3 participation agreement.
Yeah.
So if we can get the Wells Ranch 3 agreement finalized, then we could very quickly probably get out a draft participation agreement for Bloomberg. Given the high potential that we might get this project permitted sooner, I'd like to get that participation agreement in place ASAP so that we can move forward.
Yeah.
And, this may very well bring water to us before Wells Ranch Phase 3.
So, and I would tell you, I really think you have a great probability with Bloomberg to get it financed by the state of Texas.
Yeah.
You're never going to for the Wells Ranch based off the current legislature, but they're really wanting everybody to pursue the brackish based off, here's dollars.
Yeah.
So what would be the best way to do that? Let's say, will we get our consultants to pursue that for us, right? On these new bills that are, coming out, because I mean, that's a big one. I mean, the brackish, treatment is a big one. I think that, I can't remember what the bill said, but there's something about, the desalinization, I think is included in that bill in some sort of way. I think we definitely need to pursue it. Anything we can do to get, more money, that's not coming directly out of our pockets makes sense to me. But I don't know how we do that. I mean, do we just just direct our consultants to start looking at the new legislation and what we could do for funding?
Yeah, there's actually, it's in this next work order, the task
Okay.
order, to start looking at that. So-
That would make sense.
And I just want to add that Mr. Schwinn has done a lot of the groundwork for this project already,
Yeah.
and a lot of coordination with Mr. Bloomberg. So a lot of that initial stuff's out of the way. He's on board, with the project, and he has some, some stipulations that, we'll work with him to meet those. But I mean, this is a good viable project that, like I said, we might be able to deliver water with it considerably sooner than Wells Ranch Phase 3.
Okay.
He told me personally that he views this potentially as his legacy for the county.
We can play on that for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, we can. Okay. Sounds good. Anything else on the Wells Ranch? We already talked about the emergency well repair.
Randy, you know him better than any of us, I think. Hilmar, you think he would have any interest in having his name on that facility? Would that help? Okay. Okay.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
It's going to boil down to how big the font is going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, sounds good. Okay. Anything else on item 6? I'm going to try to keep us moving.
No, sir.
We're at about an hour. Okay, general topics. We already covered item A. Item B I put on there, right? And this is not a topic that we're taking anywhere. I just wanted to discuss it, right? I've got this crazy idea, right, that we need a capital revenue stream at CRWA, right? And what I mean about that is, like most of us have capital revenue streams in the form of either impact, kayak fees, water acquisition fees, or something like that. And so the thought is, I can tell you for Green Valley right now, we're adding about 1,000 meters a year, probably 1,400 this year. So it's a pretty significant growth rate. If we were to have a pass-through charge of $2,000, simple math says I would give CRWA $2 million for a capital revenue fund a year that would not really come out of my pocket whatsoever. It doesn't touch my bottom line at all. It would be charged to, developers that are setting new meters in the ground. If we could, and if we could figure out a way to do that, then we could actually complete a master plan over here that's worth something. I know that there's one in existence, but it needs to be updated for CRWA. And then we'd have some revenues that would absorb the impact of having an increased demand on our treatment facilities and water acquisition aspects here that won't touch anybody's bottom line really. And so I just wanted to see, there's 3 flavors of fees that we use at Green Valley. Impact fee, y'all are familiar with, highly regulated by Chapter 29, 290, right? We all know that very well. We do a kayak fee, a contribution in aid of construction. I primarily use those for sewer. And then we have a water acquisition fee that we charge. That the purpose of that is just exactly what it sounds, to purchase more water, more leases, new water to account for growth and demand on my system. So I just want to see if anybody had any thoughts on how to do that. It could help defray some of these costs that we wouldn't necessarily go straight back to us on a contract for cost. But I just wanted to see if anybody had any thoughts on it, particularly any of my general manager partners that use the same fees for their CIP plans. So anybody got any thoughts or ideas? Whether or not we'd like to pursue it? Yeah.
I do. I mean, I don't know if anybody knows the answer to this question, but I do know that there are certain rules that apply to retail as opposed to wholesale. Wholesale entities may not be able to have access to those kind of fees.
So I think you're right. We'd have to look at it, but I'll give you an example. Cibolo Creek Municipal Authority, CCMA. So they're a wastewater wholesaler owned by 2 cities. Essentially, I'm paraphrasing a lot. They have a impact fee, what they call an impact fee. I don't know if it's the same impact fee that's in the water code or what, but they call it an impact fee. It's like $2,300. I have a portion, one of my sewer sheds is served by them as a wholesale provider. They charge $2,300. My fee basically charges that $2,300, and I just pass it through to their fee because I'm connecting to their service. It works in wastewater, right? I haven't seen that done with a water wholesaler, but I know for a fact that's an example of a wastewater facility that charges a type of these fees. And of course, we don't pay that, right? I mean, it's done by EDU or LUE, whichever, unit you want to use, and it's paid for by the developer, or the builder, or the land, whoever is adding the service. So I don't know. Is this something we want to explore? Is the idea too foreign? I mean, for folks to think about, or what?
I wonder if it'd be worthwhile to look around at some of these other authorities that are like Canyon Regional to see if they've got some fees built into their billing like that.
I mean, potentially it could be, but I mean, just think about the source of revenue, right? So if I grow 1,000, let's just say crystal clear, what are you growing? About 500, about 1,000? Okay, that's $4 million right there. I mean, if Mike grows 1,000, shoot, we're talking real money really quickly.
We're probably going to be at about a 1,400 for the year.
Yeah, so us too, right, this year. I mean, so it's just like, we could really raise revenue really quickly that doesn't go into everyone's pocket. And then, so like, I don't know, let's say one of the cities that is probably not adding that much anymore because they're already pretty much built out in their systems, it probably won't contribute that much, but who cares? It doesn't matter because it's not really coming out of anyone's pocket. That's my point.
Phil, out of your 1,000 for the year, 1,200, whatever it is, how many of it is not developer? Hey, I just bought a ranch land and I'm putting a house on it.
Very few. Matter of fact, I rarely even charge those folks. Like, so for folks, let's just say, for somebody that owns property along our line and they subdivided, right? And they sold it to their son, right? That's a typical thing that happens. All they pay us is for the meter, for the tap, labor and materials. I don't charge them acquisition fee. I don't charge them all of those. And it's just because the line's already there.
Can you get away with charging different folks different amounts?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I haven't had a problem.
I'm sure they don't have a problem paying less.
Are they going to come back?
What
about the developers?
Are they going to come back and say, well, why are you charging John Smith less?
Well, it's a big difference. And, all they're doing is tapping a line, right? They're not, a lot of times with the developers, there's offsite improvements, there's a whole study, there's other things, so I'm not talking about, like, if I do a big old line extension on somebody, oh yeah. But if they're just putting in a tap a meter and the line sitting right there, no, we don't charge that. Yeah. Yep. Every situation is different, of course. Yeah, for sure.
I'm in favor in general of your idea.
Yeah.
You're.
Well, how do we move on with it, right? Is it easy as, just asking the staff, Adam, to reach out to a like wholesale entity and see if they have a capital revenue stream? Could we do that?
I think that's a good start.
Because I don't know if it's going to work, right? I won't have a plan, but we need something to move forward.
I think there may be I think that maybe also have to look into the regulations. I know that there's, like I said, there's differences between what retailers can do and wholesalers.
Well, I know an impact fee would be highly regulated. That's probably not the right one. I know a water acquisition fee is a little bit more, I think, in terms of what you can do with it. A contribution aid to construction seems like the best fit. It's a less regulated, it's not the right word, but it's an easier fee to set.
Can you use that if you don't have wastewater? Because we don't do wastewater, so I don't have that fee.
I don't know why you couldn't. We only use it for wastewater, but that doesn't mean you couldn't.
What was that called again? That fee?
Kayak contribution in aid of construction.
Call it capital contribution.
Yeah, capital contribution. Yeah.
It used to be construction.
Yeah.
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 For people to mine the system.
Yeah.
And we charge the water acquisition fee also.
Yeah.
But we charge it on new members if they come in.
Yeah.
The water acquisition fee, the assumption is the old part that we have.
Yeah. We do. We do as well.
Does the Public Utility Commission regulate Canyon Regional? That's who I call when you
I don't know as far as any kind of fees or anything, but I do know that they regulate us on like the whole EPP and emergency preparedness plan and all of that. They were kind of commissioned with that.
I called it on, I didn't want to overstep or be, so I run by them.
Sure. What's interesting is we call some of the fees different things, right? We charge the same thing, we call it different completely. I don't understand why that is, but it is. So, I mean, whatever. Anyway, Kara, if you don't mind, could we get Adam just to like dig into it a little bit? And, I'm tasking your man for you.
Well, yeah, but I think it would be prudent for us for this board to make a recommendation to the Board of Trustees to, to have us pursue this.
I mean, I could do it. Like I can tell the trustees on Monday night, hey, we talked about this.
Yeah.
We don't have any good ideas for you, but we'd really like the staff to look into it.
I mean, we'll be glad to do it. Like, I think, probably be.
Do you have any issues with me telling the board that? I don't want to surprise anybody. We didn't agree to anything. We didn't say we're going to charge fees or change nothing. It's just examine a way to get some revenue to help offset some of the costs that we know are impacted because of more people joining the system is the bottom line. Yes, sir.
We can call it a GBRA water diversion fee.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Well, sorry I belabored that one, but I just, I want us to be able to have conversations about things that probably could be helpful to us in general, right? And so I think that's something that would be helpful to our money, all of our money, bottom line across the board. So we'll see. Okay, I have on here the next agenda items to preview the Board of Trustees agenda. This is the last thing that we'll do every Board of Managers meeting. And really, I'm looking on here, is there any action items that the trustees are going to vote on that the Board of Managers needs to take a look at? Just scroll down to that.
Scroll down right quick to that, and then I'll tell you about the report section. No, keep going to the general business.
Yeah, general business.
So the HCP, the item B there is for to execute the contract with Martindale for the HCPUA reimbursements.
We got no opinion on that.
The only other one maybe that I don't know if you want to address it right now is item C, talking about establishing CRWA email addresses.
For me personally, my directors have a GVSUD email address, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does everyone do that for the directors?
Yeah.
Yeah?
No.
No?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's that one. Yeah, we do have.
It's not a spring seal, but it is a separate.
Yeah, it's a,
Or something like that.
oh, it's a different address.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So now we have to bring it to our board, and then it's really I hope just a formality at this point for them to pass the resolution, and we'll sign it.
So based on these, right? The first one, I know a recommendation for that. I'm going to say, the Board of Managers, has general consensus that we should enter into the MOA, and then final costings and everything will come at a later date. We can off ramp at that time, right? So that's going to be my recommendation for that one. The second one, it's neither here nor there, right? The Board of Managers really don't have an opinion. That's between, CRWA's Board of Trustees and Martindale. So
yeah,
I don't think the Board of Managers have an opinion on that one.
Yeah.
Item C, this thing about email addresses, what came up last time, as I recall, one of the trustees was concerned about not getting emails because, it was going to a personal account. And then there was a concern about the personal account being, I don't know, discoverable in case of litigation or something. So the idea was, do we want to have our CRWA trustees to have separate email accounts? My personal opinion is if they have a CRWA email account, then they have a GVSUD email account, and they have their work email account, and they got a personal email account. It's probably going to get lost in all the email accounts, right? I mean,
well, so in executive committee yesterday on reviewing the agenda, one thing we did discuss was issuing iPads for all the board of trustee members.
I love it.
We did that,
Yeah, that's pretty typical.
We did it
for
too.
boards.
and we've saved a couple of trees in Brazil. Seriously.
But also, legal counsel brought up some legal reasons why it would behoove us to have Canyon Regional email addresses for the trustees. And so he'll be reviewing that in the Board of Trustees meeting on Monday.
Okay.
And then ultimately take a vote.
I don't have an opinion on that, guys. If y'all don't have any strong opinions, I'll let the trustees hash it out.
Yeah.
You okay with that? What I will say is we bought iPads for our directors, right? I don't know about you, Mike, but it took us a couple of 2 or 3 months to finally get used to how to, for my directors to figure out, how to do it. But okay, it is what it is. But it works very well, and it saves us a boatload of paper. I mean, it's untold amount of money that it saved Green Valley. Yeah, production time, printing time, you name it.
We feel we paid for the iPads within 2 months of paper.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
I mean, so I don't know how we want to do it. Maybe it's just those entities that don't already have them. I mean, if we already have them, I don't know why my directors just wouldn't use the one that Green Valley provided.
Yeah, I would agree.
I mean, if Mike's already got them, why wouldn't you use the one you got?
Can I ask a question on it? Do y'all provide wireless services, or is it like an actual service?
So I don't know how yours are, but ours are Wi-Fi only, right? We didn't buy the cell service with it. I mean, but the ones I use, like mine, has cell service and Wi-Fi. Yeah, but my directors are Wi-Fi only. That reduces the cost. Yeah.
We'll be looking at options. Well, we will be looking at options.
Okay.
Adam's our de facto IT person, so.
Okay. Anyway, so what we're going to try to do each time is that I want to peek at what business items the trustees are going to be, asked to vote on. And so if we have any strong opinions left or right, we can make a consensus recommendation to the board to help ease their business to the trustees. And that's all I want to do. We'll do it in this sort of manner, in the future, just to keep us moving along. Okay.
Just real quick, if you can scroll up,
About the
Michaela.
reports.
Yeah, so we're looking for a way to streamline the report section. It's quite lengthy in the Board of Trustees meetings, and a lot of the things, there's no update. This was one suggested change. This is kind of how GBRA does theirs. There's just kind of a paragraph that is an all-inclusive, language so that they can kind of give updates on anything. But what we decided on more so, and we didn't end until late in the day yesterday, so I didn't get a chance to update it, but is basically boiling it, the report section, combining the committee reports and just the regular report section into one, and having it broken down into 3 components. The first one, component A, would be water supply, facility operation, and capital projects. Second one would be external affairs, regional planning, and administrative reports. And then the third one would be committee and board of managers reports. So, in doing it in that fashion, we'll, should be able to streamline the meetings a little
I'm
bit.
all for it.
Anyway, I'd hope to have those edits done, for this meeting. Just didn't get to it this morning. So
That's okay. Is general business going to change though? You
No,
think
sir.
those are going to be there? Okay.
No, sir.
Well, we got what we need for us. I commend it, man. If we can make the report shorter, I mean, just like the reports are in the book, if people read their reports, and it ought to be pretty much by exception, right? Unless there has to be something that's presented on.
Well, and we also are going to start having the agenda review meetings a week earlier so that we can get the
Even better.
reports out, the packet out to everybody a few days earlier.
Even better. I love it. Okay. Any other general discussion about that? Okay. The last agenda item is getting the heck out of here, but where do y'all want to have the meeting next? Y'all want to hold what we got? Do y'all want to shift around? I mean, Brandon had the idea that moving to different locations would be good. I am okay with that. Does anyone want to volunteer to host the next Board of Managers next month?
Canyon Regional volunteer.
Yeah, we'll do it right here next month. It's no big deal. I mean, I don't want to haul all y'all to Green Valley just because, I mean, but yeah. I don't mind doing it at Green Valley, but do you guys mind coming to Green Valley? I mean, it's a little bit further down the road.
Stay here.
Huh?
I'd rather stay here.
Rather stay here? Okay. Hey,
Yeah.
okay. Well, we'll just stay here next month. Y'all good with that? Like, and it, I do like the intent. Brandon's intent is that we get us out to each other, right? And, a spirit of participation, a spirit of, cooperation and all that. I like seeing everyone else's facilities too, honestly. I mean, I learn something every time I walk in and see someone else's place. So we'll table it for next time. we'll go here next month and we'll try it again. Maybe we'll have a taker next month, but okay. Anybody have any questions? Last shots, parting shots? All good. I apologize for taking 20 minutes more. I'd like to keep these to an hour, but I think the discussion on the habitat thing was needed. So I appreciate that. Okay, anything? Anybody else? Carrie? Okay, y'all have a great day. We'll see you next month. See you on Monday night.
Thank you.